Okay, right. So we make a start, right? The subject before us today is very dear to my heart. Perhaps one of the most important of all that of all of our discourse to date. And the reason is that this subject literally deals with the fundamentals of our lives. It's like the root of a tree. It's like the unit of a building. It's like the grain. You know, if you go to the seashore, you pick a grain of sand, but that grain is the unit of the entire beach. So also is citizenship. And to appreciate this, you know, I like to question. One of my questions is, why is it that people leave their countries and go to another? Is it because the weather is a disaster, i.e. there's now so much climate change that everything is now totally destroyed? As are the stars falling in those nations? Is it that the clouds are falling? Is it that water has now covered the entire ground, no one can live again, so therefore we have to be evacuated? Is it that when we put soil, crop into soil, they do not grow anymore? Is it that the air in that country or in that city is no longer breathable, so that we are literally now so much in danger and we have to evacuate? Is that the issue? I think not, because most countries that people leave to go to other countries have better climate. As a matter of fact, people, when they are in their native lands, have so much connectivity to everything about life than the nations they go into. Number one, their ancestral land, family tree. I mean, the culture that they grew up in is all within the land that they live. Don't worry, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm talking about myself also. Because after all, I'm also not in my native land. But it's the reason because that land is now, you know what? The problem is not with the ground. The problem is not with land. The problem is, and has always been, the system of government, the manner of government over land. And when we talk about citizenship, we're not talking about an emotional discourse. Citizenship has nothing to do with emotions. It has nothing to do with, you know, these fuzzy ideas. It literally is something that has to do with the life of an individual in relation to the government that rules or that runs or that administers order in society. So I then say then that the most and the greatest power any individual can have on any piece of territory is citizenship. This is why citizenship has to be studied. Okay, look at an example. Why is it that people strive and say, oh, I want to have American citizenship? What does that give you? You say, and you know that in our modern day, citizenship is typically represented by a passport. So how do you prove that you have citizenship of America? You just produce your passport. And people say, oh, wow, it's an American citizen. The easiest way to prove it is by showing your passport. Of course, citizenship is more than a passport. If I ask you, are you a citizen of Nigeria? Whether or not you have passport, you're still a citizen. But the easiest way to demonstrate it, to show me physically, is by producing a passport. But citizenship is not passport. That's my point there. But then, when people strive to get the passport of a nation, what they are getting is not a piece of paper. What they're really getting is the rights and the privileges that that nation has to offer. We'll go into that a little further. But I'll put it this way, just to try to organize my thoughts on this, using this slide, that a citizen is like that unit element, that unitary element of a country. Because a citizen is not just a wanderer, it's not just an occupier of land. You can live in a country and not be the citizen of that country. So being resident in a country is not automatically citizenship. But when it comes to citizenship, we're talking about something that is far and more important than just living in a country. It goes without saying also, because of what citizenship is, that the most powerful human entity in a nation is the citizen. And that's because of what citizenship is, what power it confers, and what rights you are able to exert as a result of citizenship. Let me tell you a quick biblical story. One time, Paul, the favorite apostle, was arrested. And he was meant to be given 39 strokes according to the Roman law. Now, when a Roman soldier beats you, if you live to tell the story, you should be thanking God and thanking, just be grateful that, yes, there is another day. Because the lashing, the beating is meant to devastate, is meant to utterly break the will, not just the body, of that individual. Okay. Paul now was stretched out to be beaten. And the way they beat you, it's not like the way we're beaten in secondary school and primary school. We say, stretch forth your hand. No, this is not to stretch forth your hand is matter. You are literally laid out. You are stretched out to be beaten, meaning the whip will touch any and every part of your body. Paul had been laid out in that way. Now, I'll go and check the story again. I think he must have received a few blows and something kicked in. And Paul, remember, said, wait a minute. I have citizenship of Rome. How could you be beating me? So he asked the question to the soldier. He said, well, sir, I'm not asking you to stop, but can you please answer this question? Is it lawful? Can you hear that word? Is it lawful to beat a Roman citizen? He didn't say, is it nice? It wasn't appealing to emotion. It was appealing to legal authority. He said, is it lawful to beat a Roman citizen? So I said, what do you mean? Well, he said, I am a citizen of Tarsus, a highly respected Roman colony, and therefore I was born citizen of Rome. Immediately, the whip dropped from the hand of the soldier. He was afraid for his life. He said, oh, I wasn't even born a Roman citizen. I gained citizenship over time, having stayed in the colony of Rome. He said, but you are born in Rome as a Roman citizen. I'm in trouble. I have to answer to the emperor why I should be beating a fellow citizen of Rome. I'm just trying to highlight the power of citizenship. It's not an emotional matter. It's a matter that is constituted in law and under government authority. That's why I say that the most powerful human entity in a nation is the citizen. If we understand it. Now, this is notwithstanding what is happening in our various nations. We may like or may not like our nations, but that's not the point. As a matter of fact, can I suggest to you that just like some people want to leave certain countries, other people are trying to get into those countries, even the so-called badly run countries. Because the people who are trying to get into those places know that if they can secure the citizenship, then they have the right to land and to trade and the privileges that that nation offers. They can buy land just like any other person, and they can contest to administer governmental function in that land. This is very vital. Okay. The collective character of all of the citizens in a nation produces what they call the national image. So if you want to know the character of a nation, all you need to do is look at its citizens. Then you will know the character of that nation. And I can tell you what, nations do have character. If you meet a typical American, you think these guys are they seem to be very confident. They're very upfront because they believe they're the best nation on the earth. And so their citizens behave that way. They don't hold back. They are not usually shy. They easily voice their opinion. They feel like they have to intervene in matters. That is the national character that is being depicted or being reflected in the citizen. In certain citizens of certain countries are very tend to be quite dubious, very cunning. They're always thinking short term. They want to quickly get whatever they can get. Again, that reflects the character of that nation, and so on and so forth. Citizenship either gives you a voice or takes away your voice, because that is the power of citizenship. If you have citizenship of a land, you can engage in the national discourse. You can engage in the activity going on in that land, and you have the right to be part of that conversation. Why? Simply because you are a citizen. If you are, the opposite is just being what they call an alien or a foreigner. Now, if a foreigner comes into your land and start to claim rights, what do you say? Go back to your country. That's what most people do. They're just very, very abrupt and say, where are you from? You're not even from this country, and you have the right to be talking here. Go back to your country. I'm just kind of, and these are very practical things, aren't they? We see these things and we know them. citizenship either enhances or damages your dignity. How many people go through passport to go through the airports and hide their passport? They only bring it out just when they are about to be checked. I hope my screen is still visible, and I hope you can still hear my voice.
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I saw that my screen changed and I couldn't see everyone else. Okay, thank you.
I just have to mute my audio.
Okay, that's absolutely fine.
Yes.
If you can hear me at any point in time, just call out so I can make adjustments.
No problem, sir.
Thank you. So my point here is that citizenship can either enhance or damage a person's dignity. And I was saying that it is not uncommon for certain citizenships, certain citizens of some countries to not display their passport openly, particularly when they are going through airports. They will only bring that passport out when they are presenting it to the airport personnel. Whereas some other nationals, they will openly display their passport because they have pride in their nation. They have some sense of dignity. They feel like their nations are respectable, so they literally put it on display. I have to be honest with you. In the past, I've had to hide my passport as I was going through the airport too, until I had to get to the border check. Where I say, well, can I have your passport? That was only when I brought it out of my jacket, because I was not so proud. I felt like my dignity has been impaired a little because of my citizenship. Now, this is not an attempt to bash any country. No. It's just for us to understand citizenship, so we know that any damage we do to our nations literally affects every citizen in that nation, directly or indirectly. How many times have you seen it when maybe during the Olympics or World Athletics Championship, a citizen of your country runs and comes first in the particular sporting activity, and then at the medal presentation, they start to sing the national anthem. Well, I don't know about you. Sometimes I've had to feel some goose pimples on my body just seeing, oh, my fellow citizen. Oh, you feel the sense of pride at that time. Why? That is what citizenship is about. It's the aspect of the pride and the dignity you have as a national or as a citizen of a country. How about if the citizen of your country has just been arrested for doing some misdemeanor, maybe carrying drugs or some fraudulent activity in the country, and is now being incarcerated, or worse still, sentenced to life imprisonment or some kind of capital punishment? How do you feel? You literally hide your face and say, I'm not part of them. You just literally, you use your newspaper to cover your face because you are ashamed. Your dignity is dragged in the mud. Okay, I'm just saying this, and this is by no means exhaustive. You can add to this list in terms of the power of citizenship. But maybe I should just mention this before we move on from this screen. That citizenship also grants you the highest stake in national affairs, because only citizens of a country can ever aspire to the highest offices in that land. You cannot and should not attempt to be a governor or a president of a nation or a prime minister of a nation if you are not a citizen of that country. Now, if you grant citizenship to a foreign national, just know that in time, they can become the head of your country. It's a matter of time. Well, look around, look at all of our nations. Isn't that true? Look at United States, look at Canada, look at Britain, look at some other countries that have open citizenship policy. You know that in time, some of those people who are not necessarily native born or of ethnic, what's the word? Of the original ethnicity of that country may in time soon aspire to hold public offices. And it's evident, isn't it? If you then check the ancestry of that particular individual, you will find that, oh, wait a minute, this person that is the president of UK actually has his ancestry from so-and-so nation, Hawaii, Ireland, Australia. So it's good to understand these things, because if we don't, we will think that citizenship is only just about collecting the passport of a particular country. And you would only view that from the aspect of being able to travel to any country you want. So you want a passport that allows you to travel freely through borders. Now, that is like a very tiny aspect of what citizenship offers you. That's why I said that citizenship is not about passport, even though passports are, in fact, they're the most visible tokens of representation of citizenship. But citizenship is far more than that. Not only is this true, citizenship affords you the right to participate in the business of the nation in the most involved way possible. When you are investing in your nation as a citizen, you are part of the gross national product, gross domestic productivity of that nation. This is not foreign investment. This is an investment by a citizen in the land. Let me also quickly refer to a biblical story, very short story, so that we can understand this not just from an everyday affair, but also from scriptures. By the way, when we talk about scriptures, we are not talking about religion, please. There was this woman who hosted a prophet. I believe it was Elisha that she hosted. Now, Elisha had influence with the king. So Elisha was trying to say, oh, how can we reward this woman? He said, so, okay, please ask the woman, is there anything that you want from the king, that you want us to put in a word for you with the king? The woman's response is so fascinating. The woman said, don't worry about it, sir. I am a woman that dwells among my people. Oh, I love that statement. Meaning, I am a resident of my own country. I have a stake in my own land. And my life is amongst my own people in my own country. Don't worry about me, sir. I'm okay. I love that statement so much. There is nothing better than being an investor in your own country. Now, I am not talking about our short-term displeasure with the way certain countries are or are not. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the precept and the principle of citizenship in the ideal sense. Now, why is this important? If you have ever worked in a bank or do anything with monetary policies and currency control, if you're doing any training on that in that line, and they want to train you on how to understand your currency, all your training will be centered on the original currency, not on the fake. Do you know why that is? Tell me if you know. To teach someone to understand and really be able to identify the valid currency, you are never trained using the fake. Do you know why that is? Let me answer my own question. The reason is this. If you want someone to identify the original, then you train them in the original. You show them all the features of the original. You say there is on the right-hand side, there's a triangle. Then the bottom corner, there's a circle. There's an eagle in the middle. In the center to the right, there is the head of one of our former heroes and all that. You show all of the features of the original currency. The reason why you do not train people in the fake is there are always many versions of the fake. And in fact, all of the versions of the fake that could ever come to pass or that could ever be presented are not yet known. So why would you bother yourself in something that is always changing? No, you stay with something that is fixed, original, and unchanging. The word original means that which is settled, which is from the origin, which is from the source, which is unchanging. So you do a training in the original currency because once you know the original, it is very easy to identify what doesn't look like it. That's why you do that kind of training. So I'm not talking about whether a particular nation is doing well or not doing well. That's not the point. We're talking about citizenship as an original concept. Now, can I suggest that citizenship is also not a concept of human origin? As a matter of fact, citizenship or the concept of nationhood starts from God. It's not a human construct. God's idea of nationhood stems from his own nation or territory of heaven. And his idea is, let earth be administered, be governed, just like heaven is governed. Should I prove that to you? Well, it is something so close to you that you probably say it all the time. You remember the prayer that we commonly refer to as the Lord's Prayer. I hope you can still hear me. When Jesus taught us to pray, he said, when you want to pray, pray like this. Our Father who is not on earth, our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be your name. That is, your name is separated. Your name is most revered, most distinguished, most honored, most honorable. Do you know what the next thing is? Your kingdom come. The word kingdom, just like you have United Kingdom or Kingdom of Saudi Arabia or Kingdom of Swaziland, is not a religious word. is a word that means a country that is governed by a king. Kingdoms are governed by kings. Now, a king is not just somebody that wears fancy clothes and wears a nice looking cap. A king is the head of government. I wonder, did you guys watch the passage of the Queen of England and the ascension of Prince Charles, now King Charles III, to the throne? If you did, that should teach you a very good lesson about the Bible. Because God never calls himself a president or a prime minister. He calls himself the king of glory, the king of all the earth. That's important because if you are a king, then you must have a kingdom. Now, a king is head of government or ruler, the sovereign ruler over a territory that is called a kingdom. These are very important concepts, and this helps us to understand citizenship in the way that we should. And I'm saying that the concept of nationhood, of citizenship, is not just a human idea. This is a divine idea. It's a God-originated idea. Because once you understand it, now you will literally see what should be put right in the country that you live in. It doesn't matter what country it is. And I tell you what, in the human environment, in the human context, there is no perfect nation. Every nation is 1 degree or 3 degrees or 10 degrees or the nth degree deviated from God's ideal of a nation and of government. If you know a perfect nation, please let me know. I would like to go and live there, but there is none. And that's because the human has constantly deviated from God's ideal of nationhood, of government, of nation states, and of citizenship. So don't feel too bad and think that this is only peculiar to a country you're familiar with. No, that's not true. All right. I've laid this preamble as a foundation because I know we cannot possibly cover everything that we discuss about citizenship. As a matter of fact, this will probably take 2 weeks at least to cover. 2 weeks, which is talking about it every day, or at least 2 weeks. But let's move on and attempt to define citizenship. Because if you look at the preamble that I've laid for us, then you will begin to appreciate citizenship a bit more. The first one you see on the screen is a dictionary definition. A citizen is someone who owes allegiance to a government. Can you see that word straight away? That is, you cannot be talking about citizenship and not talk about government. Let me stop there before I go on. I know you can read on the screen by yourself. But why do you talk about government when it comes to citizenship? Let me go back to the example of a passport. When a passport is given to you, who issues that passport? The answer is clear. It is always the government of the nation under which the citizen lives. And the government is so emphatic as to say that this passport is the property of the government. It is something that we issue to you to give you a symbol that you are indeed recognized, not as a foreigner, but as a native. This nation. In other words, that's why I say that government is the most important thing to a citizen. So if you want to invest in anything, if you want to learn about anything, I would say maybe the best way to start is to start with government. Because if you don't understand that, you will think, well, it doesn't concern me. You'll be saying funny things. It's not my business. Oh, what's happening with the government? That's not my business. The politics is not my business. Oh, when in fact, it is your primary business. It is a misconception to think that the politics of your nation does not concern you. Can I give you, I should have put it on the screen, but the word citizenship comes from the word politis. That's the Greek word for citizenship. If one of the derivatives of that word is the word polis, P-O-L-I-S. Polis means town or city, just like metropolis. You've heard metropolis before, right? Right. Yeah. So the word polis means a city or a town. The word citizen is the Greek word politis, P-O-L-I-T-E-E-S, I believe. And literally speaking, it means townsman or city man. That is somebody from a town or somebody from a citizen. But look at that word again, politis. What does it sound like to you? What's the closest word it sounds? If you type it in the chat, I'll appreciate that. If you hear the word politis, what's the closest word that comes to mind? Or you can unmute yourself and just say it.
Politics.
Exactly. Meaning the politis, the citizen, is the one that is expected to be involved in the affair of his town and of his city. Who else? Who else should be involved in the affairs of your town or of your city other than you? Who is the politis or the citizen or the townsman of that nation or that city? Now, of course, a nation is literally just the aggregation of multiple towns or multiple cities. Do you even know that certain countries are not even bigger than a local community of other countries? Let me give you examples. If you look at the entire population of countries like, say, the Bahamas, right? It's not bigger than one local government in Nigeria. I'm saying the entire people that live in that country, they are not even up to 1 million. How many people live in Ikeja?
Lagos is about 20 million people.
Okay. But a country like Bahamas, they are not even up to 1 million. Maybe they are now, but I know that as at about 10 years ago, there are only about 320,000 people. And that's the whole country. So how many people live in a country is not what makes it a country or not make a country. And the entire land area may not even be as big as your state capital. But that doesn't matter. In fact, I know some other countries that are even smaller. They are not, I don't think they are more than 200,000 people, and it's a whole nation by itself. If you check, just if you check and Google the smallest nations in the world, and you see the population, and you know that when it comes to nation states, it's not so much about the size. It's the fact that it is a nation that has its own government. That's the key thing. And the people to be involved in governmental affairs are the citizens or the townspeople or the townsmen, the nationals of that country. Citizen is someone, or a citizen is someone who holds allegiance to a government and who is therefore entitled to receive protection from mistreatment and also to enjoy special rights and privileges that come with citizenship. Well, yes, that's an example of a definition. The other one, I think I like that better. Citizenship is the constitutional rights and privileges bestowed upon an individual by who? By a government, guaranteeing the legal status to that individual, which is protected by the laws of the country. In none of this definition, where do you see anything emotional in it? What you are saying is government, what you are saying is legal, what you are saying is law, what you are saying is rights, privileges, and these are not emotional matters. When you hear the word law, well, can I quickly speak about that? The fundamental duty of government is protection of law and citizenship right. Now, you will wish you never miss your government class in secondary school now. So if you ask me, I'm beginning to change my mind. Some of the most important subjects to even study are subjects like government, history, social studies, because those are like the bedrock of the nation. Of course, you can do sciences, but your science can only be done if your country is functioning well. It will be impacted one way or the other by the quality of your nation. You can also look at citizenship as the constitutional contract of the state with the individual. Some of these are extracted from that book. I recommend it very highly. I like people that think properly. So that's why the person of Dr. Miles Monroe appeals to me. Anyway, but you see, I want to, I'm tempted to dwell here for a bit. Because if you look at this, you begin to now see that you don't have the privilege to say what the government does not concern me. I'm not interested in politics. That is such. Can I be respectful? I wanted to use another word, but I will not say that. I will not use the word that came to my mind. But shall I say it's an ill-advised position to take? Let's put it that way. I think that's more civil. It's an ill-advised idea to think that, oh, I don't care. What do you mean don't care? Well, let's quickly check. How does the government influence you? The government determines your education, determines and is involved when you buy a house, when you get married, when you are born, when somebody dies. I mean, when you do business and exchange contract, everything is rooted in the law that the government enacts. Don't forget, the fundamental responsibility of government is enactment of law and the protection of the citizens' right. as guaranteed by the Constitution. So a government, therefore, is the constituted authority that has legitimate power to execute that has the legitimate authority and power to execute the Constitution and the protection of rights in a nation state. I'm sure this morning you did not think you were coming to a government class, but that's exactly what it is, because a citizen is a legal entity. It's not an emotional entity. That's why no country just gives you a citizenship without thinking. You have to go through a lot of hurdles to get the citizenship of a country. That's why, because when a country gives you citizenship, they are handing over power to you. So how do people acquire citizenship? Well, you know these things. You are either born a citizen or you naturalize. If there is such a process, or a country can give you the right, they can confer honorary citizenship to you. Sometimes, and this is becoming more and more common these days, when countries almost transact their citizenship right, either by virtue of payment or some service, or you've done something that is, you have done some favor to that country. And they say, wow, this individual, this is the kind of person we want in this country. And we extend to you honorary citizenship of our country. Now, in a country like Nigeria, citizenship is acquired by birth, by naturalization, and registration. Who knows whether that will change? I've heard lately that foreign nationals are now starting to take on citizenship of a country like Nigeria. And you wonder where this is going. So don't be surprised when someone that doesn't quite look like you look becomes the governor of your state. So, I don't think it's far-fetched. Because once you open that door, well, you never know where it goes and where it leads. Anyway, so my point here is this. A citizenship or a citizen is a legal entity. It's an entity that is recognized by law. The law, as enacted by the government, recognizes the status, the person of the citizen. A citizen is also, by default, a political entity. So to say that I'm not interested in politics is a fallacy. It's an illogical statement to make. When in fact, the definition of citizen is politis. Unless you're not part of the town, unless you are not by birth or by naturalization or by registration, part of the town or the city or the country, because the country is really just many cities and many towns brought together. A citizen also is an economic entity. You know something? In a nation, right? The government over that land is the most important, but the process of the machinery of government or the process of bringing about governance is what is called political activity or politics. So if government is so fundamental to the life of a citizen, and the process of entrenching government or coming about government is the political system, and the key participant in that activity is the politis, that is the citizen, how can a citizen now say, I'm not interested in politics? You see why it doesn't make any sense to me. Okay. Now, by the same token, the citizen literally is the chief economic actor in the country. Everything that has to do with the exchange of value, which is what economics. Now, you see another subject that is very important, economics. By the way, I didn't do any of these subjects. maybe it was a mistake now that I didn't attend those classes. But now I see why they're important. And I wonder if the people that did those subjects understood what class they were sitting in. Because you can go to school and the school never goes through you. Anyway. The economy of a nation determines or is as a result of the productivity of the citizens in that country. So yeah, that's why you come about what's like gross domestic product, gross national productivity, and all these other metrics that we measure. A citizen now does not exist in isolation. That is, there is a citizen-to-citizen relationship, which is what forms what is called the society. So it goes without saying that a citizen is also a social entity. Some people use the word social animal. I don't like that kind of word, but I understand what it means. That is, it's a social actor. The word animal comes from the word animos, which means something that is animated, that moves, that has activity, right? So I understand from that concept. But you see what I'm saying there? The citizen does not exist in isolation. So there is citizen-to-citizen interaction in simple and very complex ways. Now you see where this is not the end of it. I'm only just scratching the surface. But then look at it. If you and I are to relate together, there has to be the terms of our relationship or of our engagement. Those terms of engagement are influenced by a lot of things, not least the kind of value that binds us together. So if myself and Ayobayo are to be friends and relate together, there has to be the terms of that relationship. So we can say we have to have, in quote, agreements, whether written or not written. And those agreements will stem from the things that we both value. So I can say, I don't like you to take my property without permission. Now, if I agree, I say, oh, me too, I don't like you to take my property without permission. So you say, oh, you mean we are in agreement on that value? Okay, in fact, we have a virtual handshake. That is, we both agree. What do we call that? That now comes to be part of our value system. Now, if 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people now say, oh, we too, we agree that we don't want our property to be taken without permission, then what do you have? You have what is called a societal value, which is in fact also personal value. It's true for the person as it is true for the wider community or wider society. My question to you, how do we protect that value? That thing that we value, that is, I don't want you to take my property without permission. How do we protect it? If you can. While I take a sip of water. How do we protect that which we value as a society? This is where law comes in. Law offers protection to value. As a matter of fact, law is the codification of value. You will find the words like, oh, that particular thing has now been codified in law. It has now been gazetted. You hear those kind of words? Now, again, you now see that maybe another classes you go to is law class. I discovered these things a bit late. I will achieve my career from the word go. But anyway, point here is this: law is how you protect your values. You create a law. So the government says, oh, now can you see now the constituted authority that has the authority and power to create law now says, since as a people we value this, let us now enshrine it or codify it in law. And that law becomes binding and enforceable by the power of the government. So, the value of property protection, that is, do not take my property without permission, or do not steal, now becomes part of the body of law that the citizen agrees to keep. But don't forget where it comes from. It comes from what you value. So law is literally the embodiment of what society values. Law is the codification of the value system of individuals and society in a nation state. You can see where I'm going with this. And you can see the interrelatedness of all of these things. So if we now want to do an economic activity together, we know that it is based on certain value systems. That is, when you have rendered a service, I will pay you. Is what we have a value of being fairly rewarded for the services that we deliver. And in case somebody forgets or someone is carried away, the law backs it up. We have the law for our protection. This is why this is so important. Now, of course, this is not the end of what a citizen, there's so much more to a citizen, but I just wanted to highlight some of those things. Right. What are the rights of a citizen? There's a lot there. This is not by any means exhaustive, just a few ones to call out. There's a right to live. I mean, fundamentally, you've heard live and let live. So civil right is the right that is so basic to every citizen. Is the right to life and is such a basic one, meaning fundamentally, you cannot endanger the life of a fellow citizen. And this is also enshrined in law. The law says, yes, I am obligated to protect that right and to also enforce it. There are a lot others there. The right to family life, to education, to personal freedom, religious freedom. By the way, whether or not you enjoy your life in a country is literally determined by how much of your rights a government decides to protect. That's why I've always said that the problem is not with land. If you go to the soil at the back of your house, the color, I don't think will have changed. So the problem is not the land. The problem has always been the government on the land. The governing authority and the governing influence over your land. That is why if you go back to the beginning, God said, let us make man in our image and let them have dominion or governmental authority, meaning God was the first to think about government because he also is the first government. So a citizen, therefore, cannot say, I'm not interested in government. Where would you say that idea come from? If a country does not respect your right to life, how comfortable would that be in that country? As a matter of fact, one of the biggest challenges now that people are facing in certain countries is because they feel like we don't feel secure. They say, you can take away light, no problem. You may not give us water. Our roads may be bad, no problem. But please, we have the right to live. Our lives must be secure. And if that is threatened, do you know what happens? People say, no, I cannot risk the life of my life and my family here. Let me find a place where I can at least have some measure that the government on that land values my right to live. Can you see how important this is? And you can see why the discussion of citizenship is so important. And it doesn't matter how somebody can say, I'm so spiritual, but wait a minute. I say, I have so much something power. I gain it from my ancestor, or I gain it from, it fell down to me from heaven. Listen. The road you're going to drive on, how good it is a function of the kind of governance under which you live. God does not allow any human being to live in a vacuum. It does not allow it. Now, I don't need to read every right you see on this screen, but just look through it. If any of this is violated, a citizen becomes uncomfortable. If, for example, you now see that the education of your children cannot be delivered in a way that you approve of, that you don't feel threatened about, guess what? You begin to be concerned about the education that's available in that town, city, state, country. How about freedom to worship or religious freedom? Well, if that is threatened, guess what? You begin to look for an alternative. Is there any governmental body that will guarantee my right to whatever it is I value. I'm leaving that on screen. I'm pausing for a bit just for us to scan through it. But I mean, this is public information. You can just check right of a citizen and Google it, and you see as many of it as possible. But my point here is that whenever whatever you value is threatened, you begin to, the response is so automatic. You want to challenge the government. You don't fight the land, you challenge the government. You say, no, I do not accept. That is why citizens will now carry placard and protest. You see that word, protest, is a contest that happens on land whenever the rights, the privileges of citizenship is threatened. Well, let me move on. So, what are some of the benefits of citizenship? Of course, these are only a few. And some of them are quite obvious. The right to vote. In some countries, in fact, in most countries, you are not allowed to participate in the political process if you are an alien or a foreigner. The right to vote. Meaning that is your basic participation in the political process or the process of administering our towns and cities and nation in a country. Citizenship also affords you permanent residency in a nation state. The right to live, to work, to study indefinitely without thinking, I will be removed because I'm an alien. Look, what we are saying, you will see that is so practical, is so much of an everyday affair that you think, wait a minute, this makes sense. How about the right to national passport? Of course, that's part of the benefit. And just go and look at your passport again, you will know that it really does not belong to you. The government that issues it says, this is our property. If you find it, don't return it to the owner, don't return it to the holder, return it to the owner. You are called the holder. And the government says, as a holder, you see that word, you are just the one holding it. But the government owns it. Of course, you can have it during international travels, because whenever you go to another country, guess what the first demand of you? Your passport. Because that is a government-issued document that identifies you and introduces you to another government, particularly at their borders. The border could be an airport, it could be a seaport, it could be any port. But that's how you introduce yourself. They don't want to know, they don't want to say, think about it. When you go through an airport or a seaport, they don't say, tell us your name. No. They say, passport, please. Because they're not trusting what you're going to say to them. They demand your passport. Of course, citizen can also run for public office. And your children automatically inherit your citizenship. Think about it. Now, this one is also very important. If there is trouble in a nation that you're currently in that is not your nation, if your nation was functioning well, your nation must rise to support you. It's called diplomatic support. Diplo talks about intergovernmental relations to provide support to you. They have to say, we will do government to government engagement in order to cater for the protection of our own citizens who are in your country. This is part of the benefits of citizenship. Well, it's good to have benefits, it's good to have rights, it's good to have privileges, but how about responsibilities? Because whenever there is an engagement or an interaction that affords privileges and responsibilities, and rights, there must also be accountability. But accountability is based on responsibility, meaning since you have some responsibilities, now we can hold you accountable to keeping your own part of the deal. So look at this. A citizen has a responsibility to pledge allegiance to the Constitution and the country. Do you not know why you sing the national anthem and recite the national pledge? It's to affirm your responsibility. You say, I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest. Now, when your country is being bastardized, you begin to now invent some other words that are very derogatory to that pledge of allegiance. You begin to say, to serve Nigeria is not by force. You know those things. It's a proof that your country is being damaged. When you are now saying those kind of things, they are sacrilegious. You know, it's just a proof of how much damage has occurred in the nation. When the citizen of the nation now jokes with allegiance and now say derogatory things, you should know that that country is in a state of disrepair. That's not enlightening to say. You know, people joke easily, and I'm amazed. People sometimes don't even understand what they're doing. You know, this is not an emotional thing. This is not. These are not games. Allegiance to the constitution and country. Well, voting is an obligation, it's a responsibility. It's called a civil responsibility. How about obeying laws? Oh, yes. So when your country says 30 miles per hour or 45 kilometers per hour, that's not an opinion. That is not, if you like, you can drive 100 kilometers per hour. No, it's a command. It's not a discussion. Oh, this one, paying taxes. How many people like to pay tax? Well, you don't have to like it. You just have to pay it. It's not about liking it.
If not,
and if you don't pay it,
after you,
the country comes after you. What they are saying is this: we have given you the right to use public property, the road, various amenities, and our expectation is that you will be contributing to the welfare and the maintenance of all of those things. But if you want to be a loafer, a freelancer, we will hold you to account. You will not allow it. So in a country like US, the IRS comes after you. In a country like UK, of course, the tax, HMRC comes after you. In a country like Nigeria, I think I don't know, the tax office, I'm not quite sure what they're called. They come after you too. I think it's called NIRS. They come after you too. Why? You are not allowed to take without giving. So paying tax is an obligation. It's a responsibility. Jury duty, that is offering public service. The country expects that. Participation in census, the country says, we want to know who our citizens are. Respect different opinions, meaning where it is not only your voice that needs to be heard, other people also have the right to speak. Countries call different things, protection of free speech, and so on and so forth. Volunteering to help others, yes, as a responsible citizen, if your fellow citizen is in danger, you are obligated to help. Now, let me tell you another quick story from the scriptures. And then you see, oh, I tell you what, I so much love the mind of Christ. He said, a certain businessman was traveling, and whilst he was on the way, he was waylaid by robbers, and they attacked him. They beat him. They took away all his property, stripped him naked, and left him half dead, seriously injured. And along came individuals. First, a priest came along and he said, oh, God help that person, but I'm late for service. Let me rush. Service is starting at 9 o'clock. And he rushed along and he ignored the citizen. Jesus used the word neighbor. He said, and then along came a choir member. The choir member said, the choir master will penalize me if I go late. No. May God send a helper to this injured person. Oh, God help you. Oh, poor you. So, but then and all these people, they are citizens of this country, they are townspeople, fellow citizens, who did not know their responsibilities. But along came a Samaritan, someone who the society does not even respect that very much, who is treated like a second-class citizen. And he stopped, said, how could human beings be so mean? And even though he had his engagement, he was not going to the temple. He was not going to, in quote, a place of worship. He was also going on his own business. But he saw his fellow citizen and he stopped. He said, you know what? Worst case scenario, I'll be late for my business appointment. I will explain to them. And if I lose the business, well, so be it. But the life of this individual is so valuable to me. It's so valuable to me. So he stopped by and administered first aid. Then he put him in his vehicle. In those days, it used to be donkey wagon. Donkey this, just like Mercedes. It used to be donkey. So he put it on his donkey and then rode down to the dispensary, the hospital, the clinic. And he said, please help me treat this, my friend. They would have thought it was his family member. He didn't bother to explain. Just help me treat this, my friend. Please make sure it's okay. And I've made, this is deposit for any supplies you need to use. And if you've spent anything more, when I'm returning for my business, I will pay it. Then just ask that wonderful question, said, amongst all these three, who was the neighbor to this man? The people said, the one who had mercy on him. You see, the word mercy is also not a religious statement. It's a natural citizenship response to a fellow citizen in need. I think that whenever we come to the understanding that God is not an emotional person, is the head of a government who has a country called the Kingdom of Heaven, and who has a functioning government as called the Kingdom of God, I think that's the day most of our understanding of the Bible will change, and we'll start to benefit from the Bible. Okay, now to wrap up, Jesus said, who is the responsible citizen? He said, the one that has mercy on his fellow citizen. The word neighbor is literally, go and check the word neighbor, is exactly the word for citizen or fellow citizen. It means a townsperson, someone who lives in your society, in your town. Another citizen, essentially. So that word, volunteer to help others, literally came from the word of Jesus, from that story that Jesus told. Said the one that had mercy on him. He now said, you too go and do likewise. That is, go and be a responsible citizen. The day we fully agree, to be honest, that Jesus is not the creator of Christianity religion, that's the day our lives will have freedom. He did not create a religion. He came to explain how citizens of the kingdom of God ought to live in the society that they have been given on earth. Let's move on. Know the pledge of allegiance. That's why I was saying that when you read, I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful and honest. Yeah, it is. You remember when we were in primary school? I'm sure someone will know this. When we were in primary school, we were forced to recite that every day on the assembly. I don't think they do that these days. I'm not sure.
Up to the secondary school, we were still doing it in secondary school.
Exactly, but I doubt if they still do it now. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
But that's how you every day say, I am a responsible citizen, right from childhood, from primary one. I remember saying in primary one, we were forced to learn the national anthem, and we sing it every day. We were forced to also recite the pledge every day. That is how you have a sense of that you belong to a nation. And I can tell you that it's no longer done now because the evidence is clear. People do not feel like they have any allegiance to the nation, particularly the nation of Nigeria. I don't think people are ready to vote out the next at the very slightest opportunity. Why? The contract between the citizen and the government has been broken. The land is still good. That's not the problem. It's the government to citizen relationship, G to C, contract that has been broken. Okay, let's wrap up. A citizen also has the right to be vigilant to government and politics. If the people that came from us, that represent us in government are not doing the right thing, the polities have the obligation to say, no, you cannot do that. We keep watch on your activities. You are not there to serve yourself. You are there to serve us. So we do not approve of what you are doing. And if they do not listen, they are obligated to protest and say, no, we show our displeasure very clearly. And a citizen is obligated to honor, display, cherish the national flag. When you burn the flag of your country, you are literally saying, down goes this country. You are literally burning the country. These are things that people don't understand, or sometimes fail to understand. The question is there. I think the answer is very clear. The first question is, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance, true or false? Type it in chat, will, or meet yourself and tell us. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance.
For me, I think it's true because if you are not vigilant, uh, your freedom could be taken away.
Absolutely. And the second one also goes, violation of law leads to restriction of citizens' rights.
Very true.
There's a place called the house with the big fence. Do you know what that place is called? A house with a big fence. Without windows. It's called a prison. When a citizen violates the law, so much so that the citizen violates the law of the country, and you are seen to be a danger to society, guess what they do? They put you away in the house with a big fence. They say, no, stay there by yourself. You're not coming out until you change your mind, or maybe you stay there permanently because it is too risky to let you out amongst people in society. So violation of law. Now, it doesn't have to be, sometimes that doesn't happen, it might be a fine, a penalty. It comes in different shapes and forms, but violation of law will no doubt restrict the right. So you may have right, but you cannot just dance on your right and say, oh I have got right, but you also have responsibilities. And because you have responsibilities, you are therefore accountable. So your country says, we hold so and so person to account. Yes, it's because there is a responsibility, even though you have rights and privileges, but you also have responsibilities as a citizen. And violation of those responsibilities leads to being held accountable, part of which may be the restriction of the citizen's rights. Well, let's stop it right here. Any thoughts, any questions, any comments?
Thank you very much, my very good friend, for this wonderful session. It's been an eye-opener to learn about the concept and the value of citizenship. I believe everyone who has participated today, I know one person was coming in and out during the session. I think this is very, very important, and this is what every citizen, irrespective of nation that you come from, should know as your fundamental human right. You should be able to know what your responsibilities are, what's your power, what power you have as a citizen, what your obligations are, and uh, then you also mentioned some other thing apart from
the participation in national life, the responsibility, the accountability of the citizen.
So these are things that I believe that we should all know as a citizen. And when we understand these basic fundamental things about who you are as a person in a nation, then it will help you to understand your role and the part you are to play in the life of that nation. So I want to say thank you. I don't know if any other person have a contribution or an addition or a question, but I think this is very, very wonderful. It's nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let me stop sharing my screen. But I mean, this is just literally scratching the surface. There's so much more to citizenship, but I think it's a good start.
Yeah, I think it is. And if people get this first knowledge about citizenship, I think it will go a long way in reshaping and reforming a lot of things, uh, particularly as we talk about transformational leadership. This is very, very important as a transformational leader who intends to bring a change to the society.
Yes.
Understand where you stand as a citizen.
And we were saying this before other people joined that time, that if I have a house, the sitting room is well swept, is clean, but the kitchen is dirty, the bedroom is dirty. Do I say I don't want to live in that house again? Or do I take on the responsibility to clean the kitchen and the bedroom? Can I say, you know what, I'm just going to stay in the sitting room. I don't care what happens to the bedroom. It's not my business. At least the sitting room is clean and this is where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
No, the house contains the sitting room, the kitchen, and the bedroom. You have to clean those places because that's part of the house. Soon enough,
you can't run away from the society.
You cannot.
We are part of the society.
Exactly.
We are an integral part of the society.
Exactly.
So what we have to do is to engage the society and not to detach ourselves from the society. Yes. And the only way to do it is to participate in the politics of the society.
In the entire life of the society, including the politics, because fundamentally the citizen is the polities, is the unit of political activity, and is the one for whom political activity occurs.
Wow, this is great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We will now need to move to the next slide. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes,
so do we have a word from you?
It is just well, sir. Thank you for the presentation, sir.
You're welcome.
Sir.
All right, thank you so much. So I think we can move to the next slide.